We're gonna watch. Cassie, you watching this one with me?
Probably not right now.
Alright, so you said you're gonna watch it with me. You did watch it. Wait.
I'll still react to some of it. Don't worry.
Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna watch Worst Jobs in Medieval Times by Be Amazed.
Leeches does shoveling through sewage-filled cesspits. The Middle Ages really didn't mess about when it came to disgusting and downright dangerous occupations. Intrigued? Well, travel back in time.
Oh, you know how crazy it is that people used to like, just go watch people get hung, or just watch a guy fight a bear.
True.
Like, it's actually crazy. Like, bro, imagine buying tickets to go watch a dude fight a bear to the death.
With me is
No, that's some crazy
check
shit.
out the worst jobs
I mean,
you
I
could
wouldn't
be
be surprised
assigned.
if they still do that.
Imagine dying in a bear fight. Snooper, you'll not win against a bear. Snooper thinks he can just 1v1 a bear, bro. I could solo 100 bears at once with no sweat. I mean, if you had like a minigun and a juggernaut suit, you think you can kill 100 bears with your bare hands? Who do you think you are, Goku? Gojo? All I need is my pinky finger for the buzz, alright.
In
Yeah,
medieval
yeah,
time.
if Riley can't do it, then I don't know about you.
Yeah.
No offense.
Nah, I think I'd like to bet Snooper's stronger than Riley.
That is true.
But like, Cass, what do you think? Do you know any medieval jobs, Cass? I know like one or two. Other than the obvious ones.
No, I'm trying to think of one that not many people would know about.
The only one I know is that people used to pay other people to stay up all night. So they'd have like a night schedule. So like a night shift. So they'd sleep all day. They'd wake up at night. And then in the morning, they would throw... What's a brothel?
Yeah, they throw like stuff out the window to wake them up.
Yeah, they threw... It's like a human alarm. What's a brothel? Hold on, let me see what that is. Oh, it's prostitution. Alright. Cass, apparently you'd be working more in a medieval brothel.
Well, at least we're not there anymore.
Leech collector. Back in
Leech
medieval
collector.
Europe, leeches were commonplace in medical procedures. The thing is,
See, like, bro, how did people in medieval times think having a leech suck out your blood would help you?
as those bulgy bloodsuckers didn't appear out of thin air. Someone had to collect them. And that's where the leech collector comes in. Strange as it sounds, to use leeches medicinally, it was part of an age-old practice known as bloodletting. This involved the removal of blood from a disease-ridden patient in the hope this would cure them by ridding the body of impure fluids. Though bloodletting could be performed by cutting a vein or artery over time, a specialized squidgy instrument was implemented to improve control over how much blood was removed. Yep, the leech. Anyone assigned this terrifying task of fetching these leeches had to wade into cold, murky...
Alright, to be fair, if you had the option of either a leech sucking, like, a little bit of blood out of you, or having them cut one of your veins so the blood leaks out of you, and they can't, like, bro, they can't control how much blood comes out then. They cut your artery, you're just dead. You'll just bleed out.
ponds where they'd splash around until the dreaded critters attached themselves onto their legs or arms. Once covered, the collector would then try and yank the leech.
Like seriously. What?
Bro, it's medieval times. Like they just had no clue what they were, what they were, did they? They were just trying to survive half the time.
Off before stowing
I mean, true.
them to be sold to their local medical
And they had like the goofy outfits with the little neck things.
professional. If that wasn't already spine-chilling enough, leech collecting also came with its risks. If humans lose 25 fluid ounces of blood or 15% of our blood volume, we start to feel weak and dizzy.
I think it's you, Flubber.
Now, one leech slurps down 0.35 fluid ounces of blood, or around 0.2% of our total blood volume. Okay, not too drastic. However, considering more leeches meant more money, you can bet these workers were keen for a whole host of these suckers to latch on. Financially beneficial as that may be, you really wouldn't want to feel dizzy or faint while you're wading through water now, would you? That's not all, though. Despite their association with medicine, many leeches actually carry infectious diseases.
Yeah, I was gonna
Researchers-
say, bro, leech probably has more diseases than, you know, it's you like you're trying to use it to get out. Like, bro, you're putting a leech which is like full of diseases on you. Why are they so fat? What leeches? But like, yeah, bro, you put a leech like full of diseases onto you to try and get rid of a disease. It's just gonna get you more ill. No. People it used to not think. I don't think. Bro, I don't know how we evolved to like a certain state where like, you know, you could not imagine doing this, could you?
No.
The thing is though, in another 400 years, do you think people will be like, we used to swallow tablets? What were they thinking, them lot? We used to inject themselves with needles. Why were they doing that? Like, you think like humans will just think that about us in 400 years?
Probably, yeah.
No way they actually cured disease with them. They didn't. They probably didn't. Unless like it was like venomous, like a snake bite, stuff like that. It might work. Riley injects himself with needles. What, to like take out blood? Because he's very skinny. 100% factual, Barry. But leeches are fat because they suck all your blood out. That's why they get big.
shown humans can contract hepatitis B or malaria from leech bites.
Hepatitis B or
And
malaria.
before long,
Ugh.
these cursed collectors likely picked up some nasty illnesses from the leeches. Ew.
But it's fine because you can use the leech to get rid of a disease that the leech gave you.
You
Ooh.
say leech collecting isn't a job for the faint-hearted, in more ways than one. Bear leader. But leech
Yeah, a leech collector. You have like, bro, you just die. It's like a certain
collecting
death.
wasn't the only perilous animal-based profession during medieval times. Strange as it may sound, bear baiting was a popular form of entertainment in medieval England. This barbaric blood sport involved the setting of dogs onto a bear chained to a stake by the neck or leg. It sounds cruel, but it was a popular sport at the time. Practically every town had a bear baiting pit where battle would commence, while King Henry VIII supposedly even had
Of course, it's King Henry VIII,
a
bro.
personal bear pit constructed at his palace.
Bro, King Henry VIII gotta have the most aura. I promise you.
So, who was tasked with taming these beasts when they weren't tearing it up in the ring?
Nah, I don't know.
Well, that regrettable responsibility fell on the bear leader. While it's not clear exactly how much of this job was based around training the wild animals, bear leaders did have the task of walking the bear from town to town. And before you say don't worry, these grizzly giants were
Alfie, you're cosplaying King Henry VIII. I'm not cosplaying King Henry VIII. Because you're moderately obese. Alright. Is that a Halloween costume idea for Halloween stream? King Henry VIII costume.
medieval streets. Instead, it was like a dog walk. Except rather than walking Pooch the Poodle, you're taking out a 500
Or whatever it was.
I was gonna do frag.
Oh yeah, that.
We'll
pound
see.
killing machine. Sounds stressless. Fortunately, the bears weren't
Be Manny from Ice Age. I'm not a woolly mammoth,
on
bro.
a leash. These beasts were also muzzled and likely had their front paws chained together.
Oh wait, no, that's not
It's
a bad
on-
idea. Then Riley can be said this long.
Oh, wait. Cass is cooking. Cass is cooking. What can you be, Cass? You could be the monkey that sings. That one monkey that sings, the pirate dude.
Oh, fine.
You're welcome. I'm gonna watch the video
Oh,
because
good.
only 3 minutes in.
But I imagine it wouldn't take too much effort for one of these colossal
3
critters to
minutes.
break free of
Bruh.
their chains and muzzle. Let's just say I hope any bear leaders were fast with their feet.
He can be a bowl of chicken tikka. Alright.
As you can imagine, they'd quickly become a bear's breakfast. food taster.
Had to be.
Stuffing your face with food all day sounds like the perfect job, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I
food
mean,
tester actually
I
does
do
sound
that
nice.
already, and I don't get a paid a cent. However, I'm not so sure medieval food tasters would agree.
Oh, yeah, no medieval
During the
food
Middle
tasters,
Ages,
yeah,
many
screw that.
monarchs were paranoid they'd be poisoned. As a result, they employed food tasters who had the job of, well, tasting the food. The thinking was if the food tasters ate some of their monarch's munch and either didn't taste anything strange or fall to the floor in a heap, it was safe for consumption. Nothing like a bit of life-threatening labor. Food tasters were present at every one of Henry VIII's feast, where they'd be forced to chow down every single item on the monumental banquet. Even worse, they spent
Alfie, you're built like the Guinness Book of World Records. For the
the
bar,
entire time
right?
on their knees. Can you imagine that? Eating potentially poisoned food for hours until your belly aches and all without having the comfort of sitting on a chair?
Now, to further, as a food tester, as long as you're not like the first one. Because after people realize, oh, there's no point poisoning food because, the food tester's just going to eat it,
But food
then,
wasn't the only item that medieval royals feared
I
had
think
been laced with
it's not a
poison.
that bad job,
Henry
bad,
VIII
bad of a
was
job.
so paranoid he was convinced his enemy poisoned the clothes of him and his family. As a result, the royals rarely put clothes on before having someone test them first. For example, when it came to dressing Henry's son, Edward, they'd first be tested on a boy around the same size as the prince. From there, they'd wait, seeing if the clothes tester would cry out in pain from any lingering poisonous powder that was hidden on the linen. Ouch. If that wasn't protection enough, Henry VIII even had servants check his bed to prove it hadn't been smeared with any poison. You'd presume they'd do this by patting down the duvet covers to see if they felt any strange sensation, but that'd be too kind for horrid Henry. Instead, the king forced his servants to smooch every part of the sheet, pillows, and blankets before he'd get under the covers. Talk about a kiss of death.
Yeah, that guy's just freaky.
Arming Squire. Nowadays, kids dream of growing up to be a sports star or a super talented singer. But back in medieval times, some youngsters had a very different ambition. Many boys had lofty aspirations of becoming a knight. However, you couldn't just become a knight. Instead, boys as young as 14 had to first go through the arduous occupation of an arming squire. Essentially, the squire was
Nah, in medieval times, I'd want to be a knight.
a young servant to a knight.
I think
They
it's
served
like the
carrying out
most
errands for their knights.
respectable, like, job, and it's like the most, like, exciting.
These range from tying their laces to caring for their horse and even guarding over them as they slept. Doesn't sound too fun, right?
Alfie, you wouldn't fit in my armor. I'm not that big.
However, out on the battlefield, the job of the arming squire got far worse. If a knight's weapon or armor broke during the battle, the arming squire was expected to fetch and deliver replacements. Entering a battle was dangerous enough for a knight, let alone an arming squire who had to run in without any weapons or armor. Given that, some
Oh,
squires
hell
never
no.
realized their knighthood dreams as they were struck down while carrying out their servantly duties during battle.
Ooh.
For the
They don't make extra large chainmail chest plates.
lucky
Low bar,
squires
I'm
that
not.
did survive,
I'm
their
in
work
medium.
wasn't over once the battle had commenced. Ever heard the phrase "knight in shining armor"? Yeah, well, a knight's armor wasn't always so shiny. After fighting, their protective plates would be covered in an odorous mix of dirt, blood, and guts. Guess whose job it was to clean that up? You got it, the arming squire. Even worse, they'd use a mixture of sand, vinegar, and urine to scrub that mess off. I don't even want to imagine that smell. By the age of 18, if the arming squire had first survived and then done enough to pass this stage of their knighthood training, they could finally fulfill their dream of becoming a knight. Cool as that be, being an arming squire sounds like the world's worst work experience, and that's coming from someone that worked at their dad's label-making company for a week.
But duvet pissing in and using it to clean stuff. It'll get like basically. I'm pretty sure your piss is like it's like acidic a little bit, so I'm pretty sure it just cleans stuff easier. I'm guessing we'll water it down afterwards, obviously, just to get like stains out and stuff.
Ever taken the hit for something that wasn't your fault?
That's why I add vinegar and sand in it. Sand is for grit, so it like, has more friction, and the vinegar is also acidic.
Annoying, isn't it? But what if I told you there was once a medieval job that revolved around taking the punishment for someone else's mistakes?
Oh, I've seen that. I don't know what king or like person it was, but they used to whip the son's friend because he couldn't put hands on like the prince. They used to whip his friend instead to punish him.
Unbelievable as it sounds, that was the task of the whipping boy. You see, as the royal status of a prince exceeded that of his tutor, he couldn't be punished by them. It was believed the only person who could punish a prince was the king. However, since the king
I can whip. What?
were often too busy conquering new lands, they didn't have time to discipline their own children. So, with no king in town, how exactly could princes be punished? Well, sadly, according to some historians, this is where the role of the whipping boy comes in. A whipping boy would be a youngster who'd grown up alongside His Royal Highness, say the son of the king's cook, for example. The thinking was that a prince seeing their friend punished for something they were responsible for would be enough motivation for them to not repeat the offense. Contemporary sources claim that Henry VIII's son Edward had a whipping boy. Apparently, whenever the king-in-waiting was heard saying any colorful language, his close friend Barnaby Fitzpatrick was...
Bro, what like swear words do you think they were saying in medieval times?
Probably none.
Well, it just said they said it. But it said they used to say bad language, but like, you think it would be? You think like fuck is just like in medieval times? Nah, they'd speak like a different. Do they speak English in medieval times?
Yeah, but it'd probably be old in English, so
It's like Shakespeare.
yeah, pretty much. So I doubt they'd have that.
That's scarilege. What?
whipped in Edward's presence. Jeez, poor Barnaby. Let's just hope young Edward wasn't a sadist, eh? Fuller and Tanner. Nowadays, us humans use fabric softener to detangle clothes fibers in our clothes, making them nice and soft on our skin. Back in the day, though, there was no such thing as fabric softener. Instead, it was the job of a fuller to make sure the cloth they were working on was clean and soft. To do this, they had to stomp onto the wool inside a large fluid-filled bucket for hours at a time. Okay, sounds pretty tiring, but still, I can think of worse jobs. Oh wait, there's a catch. You see, these buckets wouldn't be filled with water, but stale human urine.
Ugh.
Yep, you heard that right. Fullers would spend their days trampling wool up to their knees in pee-pee. Man, imagine the
How do you even,
stench.
bro? How do you even
Sickening
get
as
that
it
much
sounds, the
PP?
ammonium salts found in urine help soften and cleanse the cloth, while they even work to brighten white clothing too.
Sounds like a Shabs kind of job.
Even
It does
still,
sound like a
whoever
Shabs kind
invented
of
fabric
job.
softener deserves a statue. Speaking of pee,
Can I say though, you get all your clothes like fluffered up and soft and cleaned in pee, and then you put it on. Ugh.
in for a treat with the job of a tanner. Like fullers, these guys worked with animal products, but instead of softening and bleaching wool, a tanner would transform animal skins and hides into leather. After receiving the skin of a slaughtered animal, they'd first have to wash off any blood, mud, and manure that came with it.
Let me guess with
As you
pee.
can imagine, the odor of a freshly skinned grubby animal hide wasn't pleasant. In fact, the odors were so strong that tanners sometimes even vomited on the job. Once they'd clean up the animal's skin and their own vomit, the tanner's job was centered around removing all of the hair from the skin. For months, they'd have the tiring task of scraping hair off the hides. To make the process easier, tanners would often soak the hides in, you guessed it, urine. Maybe they borrowed the fuller's batch of the stale stuff. While it sounds gross, ammonia found in urine helps dissolve keratin, the structural protein in hair, allowing tanners to easily remove it from the hides. Once all the hairs were removed, then came the final step, softening the skin. So what did medieval tanners use? No,
Pee.
not urine. Still,
Wow.
it wasn't much more pleasant. They made a stinky solution out of pigeon and dog poop, with the substance supposedly containing enzymes that made the leather more stretchy. Yeah, I don't think it's a stretch to say these sound like two miserable medieval jobs.
Yeah, that might be the worst one.
Spit
You just stood in poo and pee all day and put mixing clothes in it.
boy.
Ugh.
Ah, the spit boy. No, this sorry soul wasn't some sort of target practice for any malicious monarchs to spew their saliva on. Instead, the spit refers to the long metal rod they used to roast meat over an open fire. The spit boy was required to rotate the spit manually, meaning they could be stood over the ferocious flames for hours, especially when preparing food for fancy feasts. Aside from being mind-numbingly dull, the job also came with its fair share of hazards. Being so close to a roaring fire over a long period meant spit boys could succumb to heat exhaustion. That came with headaches, dizziness, incredible thirst, as well as the very real risk of fainting, which isn't something I'd recommend doing in front of a fire. Worse still, being exposed to a roaring fire meant spit boys ran the risk of suffering nasty burns, especially if the flames ever got out of control. In fact, even if spit boys were stood a few feet away from the fire, they weren't safe. As the meat got hotter, grease would no doubt start splattering, shooting out hellishly hot juices in every direction.
I was gonna say, as long as you don't stand near it, it shouldn't hurt, but yeah, there's loads of gas, not gas.
Haha. Imagine cupping
Hold
that
on.
in the eye. What a spitty job.
Yo, I just forgot the grease,
Imagine cupping that in
not
the
gas.
eye. What a spitty job.
Like, yeah, but it's gonna shoot fire everywhere, isn't it?
Lime burner. While we're on the topic of red hot jobs, that brings us to the lime burner. In medieval times, calcium oxide, or quicklime, was used to make mortar for buildings. But to create quicklime, limestone had to first be heated up, and that brings us to the lime burner, whose job was to dun, dun, dun,
Burn lime.
burn limestone. First, they'd heave heavy chunks of limestone into a large stone oven known as a kiln. To burn the limestone, the kiln would be heated at a soaring 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit. For reference, that's 3 times hotter than the maximum temperature of conventional ovens. But the horrible heat was the least of these guys' worries. When limestone is heated, it releases carbon dioxide. Considering prolonged exposure to this can result in dizziness, confusion, and unconsciousness, you do well to steer clear of the sinister stuff. Sadly for lime burners, inhaling carbon dioxide came with the job. Even worse, they'd be exposed to the noxious fumes for hours on end. You see, the kiln needed to be burning 24 hours a day for no less than a week until the limestone was broken down into quicklime. Typically, a 2-man team would work over a kiln, with one man working a 12-hour day shift while the other did the 12-hour night shift.
Yeah, 12-hour shifts, bro. Everyone like just seemed to like overwork themselves a lot, didn't they? Like everyone in medieval times just doing the same thing for hours and hours and hours and hours every day.
So that's horrifyingly hot working conditions, the ever-present risk of passing out, and if all that wasn't enough, back-breaking 12-hour shifts too. Man, I'm never gonna look at medieval architecture the same again. Treadwheel operator. Making mortar for construction was one thing, but how exactly did they build such awe-inspiring architecture in medieval times? After all, it's not like they could call on cranes to transport heavy construction
Yo, how did we make like castles, bro? Bro, how did we do that shit?
materials. Well, surprising as it may sound, the medieval period had its own special sort of crane. The ancestor of the modern crane, known as the treadwheel crane, may look like
Treadwheel
a giant
crane.
hamster wheel at first glance, but it's
Yo.
used sheer manpower to help build some of the most impressive structures in medieval Europe. The wheel had a 15-foot diameter, allowing 1 or 2 people inside. Whoever was inside the wheel would power the machine simply by walking. Attached to a pulley, the crane's rope turned onto a spindle as the wheel moved to lift the load. Sounds simple enough. Well, not for the workers. For starters, it was exhausting. Operators had to step on the wheel for hours at a time to lift up the heavier loads. If they managed to lift the load without passing out from exhaustion, they also had to somehow stop the wheel. These contraptions had no braking system, meaning if the operator weren't strong enough, the motion of the wheel could take them
Yeah,
for a spin.
cooked.
Man, I'm getting dizzy just thinking about it. Aside from the exhaustion and dizziness, the work of a treadwheel operator was also incredibly dangerous, as the whole point of treadwheels was to haul material up.
Sounds
or
like fun.
up.
To be fair, it does sound fun, but after, I thought it'd be like, if you move it, it'll go up. But these guys on here, yo,
Aside
they're
from the
like
exhaustion and
constantly
dizziness,
moving.
strong enough to load without passing out from
They're,
exhaustion,
look how fast they're
they
going. That's not going up.
also
That's
had to
not
somehow
moving.
stop the wheel. These
Like, that's barely moving. Get Get a furry to do the work while run on all fours. Speed up a process.
But it was also incredibly dangerous. As the whole point of treadwheels was to haul material up, they were often found on the top of buildings.
It just get really exhausting and tiring.
Considering the tallest buildings in medieval Europe were well over 400 feet, it was certainly a nerve-jangling task. Imagine being stationed hundreds of feet in the air and those wooden planks suddenly give way beneath your feet. Let's just hope no one operating these mechanisms had a fear of heights. Saying that, some historians have even suggested the job was often given to blind people as they wouldn't be terrified by the sight of the sheer drop. All of a sudden, treadmills look like light work. Executioner.
How is this a worse job? Bro, an executioner sounds like an awesome job. Depends how many people you have to kill a
In
day,
medieval
really,
times,
doesn't it?
capital punishment was used as a sentence for the most severe crimes. It was the role of the executioner to see off criminals either by beheading, burning, or hanging. Barbaric as it sounds, this job required great skill. In some regions, executioners were limited to 3 strokes for beheading. If they failed to make a clean cut, an unsuccessful executioner could be attacked by the furious spectators. If they survived that, they'd also have to feel the wrath of the authorities who'd likely punish them either by withholding their pay or even sending them to prison. Even those executioners that did their job well had it hard. I mean, it's no surprise that people whose profession revolved around killing weren't too popular with the rest of society. As a result, executioners tended to be ostracized, living at the edge of towns. Feelings were so hostile towards them that executioners weren't allowed to go into churches. Even if they wanted to get married, the ceremony would have to be conducted at the executioner's own.
Wow, we really treat executioners like, you know. But I thought, like, the king had executioners. I didn't think, like, they were just like, oh, I'm gonna be an executioner. Not allowed to, like, go in a church in medieval times. That's like, that's crazy. A fully religious society and you're not allowed to be religious. Because of, like, you know, how far they're pushing you away. That's like, wow.
Home.
I
You'd
did
think
not
for all the
I did not think like executioners got like desocialized. I don't know what it's called. Marginalized. See. Thank you to Tom Pinkstone. Pretty sure. Mr. Pinkstone, I don't know. Tom Pinkstone. Love that guy.
drawbacks, executioners would at least receive a handsome wage. However, unfortunately for them, this wasn't the case. Although capital punishment was used far more frequently in medieval times compared to today, executions were still infrequent.
Ostracized.
As such, the pay from the rare execution wasn't enough to live off of. To compensate for this, many medieval executioners also took up the role known as knackers. Yet, this didn't offer too much respite, considering it involved cleaning animal carcasses from farms and streets. Jeez, what made these guys so morbid? Quick, let's move on before things start getting too bleak. Body collector.
Oh, it's a bad
And
one.
what better way to lighten the mood than the Black Death?
Yeah,
Oh, man, the Middle Ages really didn't mess about. 1346 wasn't a great year for medieval Europe. This was the year the devastating Black Death plague pandemic swept across the continent. Over the course of 7 years, the pandemic took the
Oops, sorry. I
lives
just had
of
to
as
bounce
many
one real
as
quick.
50 million people, wiping out around 50% of Europe's population.
50
As the
million
plague
people.
ravaged throughout cities, the sheer volume of fatalities meant bodies had to be quickly disposed of, preventing the risk of
To be fair, the Black Death, yeah, tragic. The masks are like, bro,
disease.
the
Body
doctors,
collectors had the
plague
unenviable task
doctors.
of gathering and burying the bodies of the fallen. Due to the sheer amount of victims, corpses would often be left on the streets for days before body collectors could reach them. By this point, the bodies would be rotting, while buboes may have popped, leaking rancid pus. If the sight and smell of that wasn't horrifying enough, these body collectors also ran the risk of catching the infectious diseases themselves. Once their corpse carts were fully loaded, these guys then had to get rid of the bodies. It was quickly decided the best way to bury the deceased would be to dump them into a large mass grave. Huge trenches were excavated in churchyards. New arrivals were placed by the hundreds, with each layer of bodies covered by a thin layer of soil until the trench was filled to the top. Man, sounds like the world's worst lasagna. Unsurprisingly, the men responsible for hauling people's loved ones onto a cart weren't too popular. In Florence, body collectors were called becchini, or gravediggers, and were accused of using the Black Death to earn more money than they'd ever done before. Chances are, due to the huge demand for their work by
Bro, we thought like the body movers caused like the Black Death, just so he could get some more money.
becchini, or gravediggers, and were accused of using the Black Death to earn more money than they'd ever
Oh no, gravediggers. But he said, "Oh, I get what you mean now." Bro, I got confused then.
done before. Chances are, due to the huge demand for their work, body collectors did earn more during the Black Death. Saying that, it seems a bit harsh to blame them, don't you think? I mean,
Oh no, I
some
was right the first one. Who the fuck is fundraising creation?
has gotta
Bruh.
clean the streets of all those corpses. Groom of the stool. But if you thought dealing with heaps of bubo-ridden corpses was stomach-churning, strap in, because this next
What
one
is this
a
picture?
more vulgar. Henry VIII is infamous for his constant wife-swapping as well as his enormous appetite. However, much less is known about a strange role that he developed during his reign. Known as the groom of the stool, this poor person was responsible for attending to the king's, toileting
That
needs.
pictures is my phone
That's
wallpaper
right,
now.
whenever nature called, the groom of the stool would
But-
be on hand to assist the king with his business. That meant supplying a bowl, water, and towels, and potentially even, cleaning up for the king, shall we say? Yikes.
Oh.
I can't think of many things worse than giving King Henry VIII a helping hand, especially after he indulged on one of his binge-eating bonanzas. Humiliating and horrific as the job would have been, it was typically the sons of noblemen that'd take on the role. They do this not to take a peek at the king's posterior, but due to the significant stature of the groom of the stool. You see, they spent so much time with the king at close quarters, they'd get to know the monarch on a personal level, with the relationship between the two quickly growing. As a result, the groom of the stool would often be rewarded with land and titles among other privileges. William Compton, Henry VIII's first groom of the stool, was given land, a shed load of money, and even appointed Chancellor of Ireland. Fair to say William must have been a real talent with the toilet paper. Gong
No, that one's not that bad. You get rewarded for it.
Farmer. Now, we couldn't talk about stinky medieval jobs without giving a mention to the work of gong farmers. Put simply, these guys had to dig out and remove human waste. You see, back in medieval times, there was no implementation of
Goon
modern
farmer.
plumbing, meaning
Barak.
no waste could be flushed to a sewage system. Instead, large cesspits were found below toilets where waste would accumulate. Before long, these cesspits would fill. So who they gonna call? Gong farmers! These ill-fated folk had to head into the cesspits where they'd shovel out the smelly stuff into barrels, before lugging the goods onto the cart and dumping it outside the city walls. If that didn't sound horrendous enough, gong farmers had to work through unsociable hours. They typically started at 9 p.m. and wouldn't clock off until 5 in the morning. This way, the sight and smell of heaps of human waste wouldn't offend the public. Not only was the work disgusting and tiring, it was dangerous too. Having their nostrils
How long's 9 p.m. to 5 a.m.? 10, 9, 10, 11, 12. 9 hours.
invaded by those nefarious noxious fumes for hours on end led some workers to pass out from asphyxiation. Tragically, for some
Ooh, passing out in poop.
gong farmers, it could get even worse. Take the case of Richard the Raker. In 1326, when attempting to shovel out sewage, he lost his footing and fell straight into the deep, stinky sludge, sinking down to his demise.
Drowning in
What a
poop is
whiz.
crazy.
Phew, that rounds up the
Aye,
worst
that's the
one.
worst one. Nah. The fact you can drown in poop. Nah. That was a good video though. That was a really good video. I love these type of videos. If anyone finds any videos like this, put them in the video suggestion. Also, this is probably going to be a YouTube video. So yeah, try and hop in the streams if you're watching the video, and join my Discord. I don't know if it's gonna be linked in the description. If it's not, go to my Twitch, put hashtag not hashtag. Oh my god, exclamation mark Discord. It'll give you a link. Join that. Boom.